to determine whether or not a series has a sum, we consider something called the partial sums. Which are these numbers where I start adding, so let me scroll back to our example, where I start adding these terms, the 1/2, the 3/4, 7/8, 15/16, those are my partial sums, where I add up a partial amount of the numbers, okay? So in general, you have S1 is just the first term in your sequence, S2, my second partial sum, is A1 plus A2, S3 was A1 plus A2 plus A3, and in general, you're going to have S sub n is the sum of the first n terms, which you can write with that summation notation if you want, I equals 1 to n ai. Okay. Yes.
So in the second one, I like the summation to 1. On the first one, what does it go to? Like,
it doesn't go, it goes to infinity.
So we just put it to infinity, or?
So it doesn't make sense to say sum anymore,
Okay.
because you're getting infinity, not a number. Yeah. Any other questions? So what have we done? We started with our infinite series, this list of numbers I'm adding together, and I'm creating these new numbers, S1, S2, S3, all the way down to Sn. What have I done? I've created a sequence. I started with a series, and I've created an ordered list of numbers. Remember, that's a sequence. So now, we have created a new sequence. The sequence of partial sums, S sub n. And remember, when we have a sequence, we want to know if it converges or diverges. And that's what we're going to use to define if a series has a sum or if it doesn't have a sum. Okay? So if your sequence converges, if the limit of the S sub n's is S, which is a finite number, then the series A sub n, we're going to say that it converges, and S is the sum of the series. Okay? If your sequence is diverging, S sub n, if S sub n diverges, the series A sub n is divergent. Okay? So you only talk about a sum if your series converges. And the sum is just going to be the limit of the partial sums. Okay? Any questions so far? So let's look at a series and decide if it converges or diverges. Okay? So Suppose we know that the sum of the first n terms of the series a sub n is s sub n, which I'm going to tell you a1 plus a2 plus an. It's going to be 2n over 3n plus 5. Does the series converge or diverge? Look up at our definition. I'll scroll up just for a second. In order to answer if it converges, I need to look at the limit of the partial sums, the s sub n's. So I need to take, they gave me a formula for s sub n, so I need to take the limit. The limit of s sub n, 2n over 3n plus 5. What's that limit equal to? 2 over 3? Do we all agree? These were like ones we looked at last time, yesterday. 2 over 3. So what do you think the answer is? Converges or diverges? Converges. I need to get a finite number from the limit. I did. So the answer is that this series now, not the sequence, the series a sub n converges. And if the question also asked me for the sum, you would say that the sum is 2/3. Okay? All right, any questions? So this example, the problem that was given to me, it was really nice because they already gave me a formula for s sub n. I didn't have to find that formula. I didn't have to start adding terms and find the formula. Like when we did our two previous examples, I had to find a pattern for those partial sums. But here they give it to me. In general though, it's really hard to have a formula for these partial sums. So I'm going to say, note, it's hard in general to find a formula for s sub n.